Recording with Mr. Bob Bork on Thursday, March 23, 2023 at 4:05 p.m. Eastern time. And guys, if you want to support the podcast, click on the little red button on Rumble. Takes you to locals. You can get exclusive stuff and support the podcast for like $1 a month. I don't know. It's great. Mr. Bork, please introduce yourself, sir.
Sure. Well, my name is Robert Bork Jr. And for the purposes of this interview, I am the son of the former judge Robert Bork, former nominee to the Supreme Court, former acting attorney general, former solicitor general, and former Yale law professor. But I never went to law school, though I thought about it several times. And I was a newspaper reporter and magazine reporter for years after I got out of college. Went to a very liberal college, which made me insane. But I don't mean that I'm still insane. It was very frustrating at the time. And so I was a newspaper reporter, which was what my father wanted to do, but he didn't go to journalism school. He thought he might want to, but he ended up going to law school. And anyway, so I was a reporter, and then 1987, when he was nominated to the Supreme Court, and then ultimately defeated by Joe Biden and Ted Kennedy and others, that was it for me. I wanted no part of my chosen profession anymore. So I quit and got into the game, got off the bench and into the game, and I became an advocate, sort of public affairs consultant, speechwriter, and ultimately started my own company doing advising corporations and their counsel on legal issues, legal PR issues, how to communicate about these messes that they get themselves into. And ultimately now, that was a long way to go for this, but ultimately now I run a little group called the Antitrust Education Project. It's one of my side hustles, as I guess you guys call it in your generation. And that group exists to protect the consumer welfare standard, which is the operating system of antitrust enforcement that's been in place since 1979 for, I guess, 43 years or so. And that was the creation of my father, Judge Bork, who wrote a book, which you can see over my left shoulder, I guess, that way.
Yeah.
Called The Antitrust Paradox, which took on the orthodoxy of antitrust law that had been in place for almost 100 years, 90 years. And it said, it's not about protecting competitors. It's not about protecting inefficient competitors from more efficient competitors. Antitrust law is about protecting the consumer welfare. And this book changed the way the Supreme Court and other courts saw antitrust law. And really, within a year of its publication in 1978, in 1979, a case called Ryder v. Sonotone, the Supreme Court said, you adopted his thinking from this book, and it became, imposed by the Supreme Court, the law of the land. And it has been in place ever since, I think, leading to more innovation, more job creation, more growth, more wealth creation than in any period in the history of this country. Not just the consumer welfare standard, not just this antitrust regime, but everything else that was going on in terms of Reagan cutting taxes and deregulating and all that sort of stuff really, really lit a fire under the economy and led to just enormous progress. Small p progress, not capital P progress.
Yeah.
So,
not neon hair twerking
yes,
in front of kids. Progress.
yeah, we don't claim credit for that.
No,
but so I've been out there defending this view of the law, that what is now essentially the law, from the progressive left for the last 2 years. And the progressive left has wanted to tear down the consumer welfare standard and put in its place a much more populist, woke view of antitrust law, which places things other than economic efficiency and the welfare of the consumer, things like equity and social justice and stuff, as important factors in making antitrust determinations. Sorry, the phone rang.
No, you're good.
So, and that's wrong to do that. I also have been arguing with conservative Republicans who think that antitrust law ought to be applied against big tech companies because they're ticked off, as well they should be, about you know, the conservative censorship of conservatives. And I argue that there are other ways to deal with that than breaking up companies, applying antitrust law for purposes for which it was never intended. Even, even my father would say it was never intended for that purpose at all. So
Can we kind of go into that a little more?
absolutely.
As someone that was permanently banned from YouTube in August 2021 for interviewing Dr. Malone and Dr. McCullough, I have a burning, searing hatred for them. But and I still say it, and I guess it's one thing I am proud of is even when getting kicked off by them, I still hold that that's a private company, and because I have to practice what I preach. I don't have to have anyone on the show that I don't want to have on. And
Mm-hmm.
if God willing, my show ever gets to be massive, I know that I would rather burn the studio down than have a group of people say we should dictate who's on Tommy's show. So I have to stay true to myself and say they're a private company. They're a bunch of, evil commies, but they are a private company. That being said, just out of intellectual curiosity, why isn't antitrust laws, why aren't they being imposed on big tech? And I guess it's for what you said, because it would be
Well,
for
for
reasons in
what
which
purpose? No.
uh,
It's for what purpose is it
yeah,
not being
is
proposed?
it consumer or is it censorship?
I think that you certainly could bring cases against big tech companies if you can show that they are abusing their market dominance. That's what it's all about. If they are, in fact, uh, harming consumers with their monopoly power, and but saying that if there's another recourse which is not antitrust, Section 230, revising Section 230, writing new laws about free speech that apply to these tech platforms, that's the way to go. But I would certainly support a antitrust case against any company that is in clear violation of the consumer welfare standard. Now, let me just point out to you and your listeners, your viewers, that being a monopoly is not illegal. It is not against the law to be a monopoly. It's
Okay.
how you got it and what you do with it that crosses the line.
Okay.
So if you were, cornered the market in something by unfair practices, by buying up all the market share, that's okay. Or not the unfair practices part, but but if you were like Google, the owner of your hated YouTube, and you made a better mousetrap, better algorithm, and you developed this whole thing, and you grew to the size that they are based on that and other things. That's nothing. There's nothing illegal about that. And
No.
again, it's what you do with it. So if you then use your position, your market power, and you have to define what the market is. It can't just be, well, we're just big, and so it's everything we do is the market. That's not true. It's is it in healthcare because they're trying to get because Amazon's trying to get into healthcare? Is it in groceries? Is it in whatever it is? Uh, that's how they can defend themselves in court, saying you haven't defined where our monopoly is. You just hate us because we're big.
Yeah.
So I would say bring a case and try it out. And in fact, the FTC and the DOJ are bringing cases against those companies, and they are losing.
They're losing.
Yeah, I mean, the FTC brought a case against Meta, formerly Facebook, and soon to be something else again, I'm sure. But because they're giving up on the metaverse now. In case you
They are.
yeah, now they think AI is the future. So
Have they acknowledged that they're
yeah,
dropping Meta?
they acknowledge what?
Is that a
Zuckerberg has said that this Meta thing may not be what everything I thought it was going to be.
yeah, of
Um,
course it wasn't. It was
yeah,
it was kind of like they set it up and they did that weird meeting where Zuckerberg, or like a commercial where Zuckerberg's in the Meta thing, and then like 2 days later it was like sexual assaults in the metaverse are up 9,000% or something. It was just like,
yeah, I'm not sure about that, but well, in fact, I think Meta is it Meta that's being sued now for human trafficking. I think yeah, private lawsuit.
that's always
Yeah.
that's always good.
Well, is that the Facebook platform is being used for human trafficking? So
Yeah.
again, so is the telephone.
Yeah, that it's, I'm sure UPS is to a degree. I'm sure Boeing is, and they don't know
Not
it.
that it isn't serious, but
Sure.
I just don't know that you can blame them for that if they are. I mean, I know all these companies try to take precautions against terrorist videos and things like that, and they don't always succeed. But they do clear out a lot of that junk. Anyway, getting back to so this case I was about to mention, Meta, that the FTC lost. Meta wanted to buy a VR headset company.
Oculus.
No, not Oculus. They have Oculus, I believe.
Yeah.
They bought
A new one.
they
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 wanted.
bought they wanted to buy something called Within, which is a exercise VR company. Has exercise programming and that kind of stuff. And for the whopping sum of 440 million, which is like
Peanuts.
yeah, nothing, peanuts. And the FTC immediately jumped up and down and sued them over this, saying that although there is no definable, Meta have no position in this market, no market share in this market, and it's not a big market, and this purchase would not immediately give you, controlling market share or market dominance. You might sometime down the road in the future have market dominance. So we're going to sue to block you now.
Hmm.
And to this, I mean, this reminded me of that Tom Cruise movie, Minority Report, where, the
Pre-crime.
pre-crime. That's right. So we think we think you're going to commit a crime. Not sure exactly when. Sometime down the road, you will be a monopoly in this area. So we're going to sue you now to stop you from doing it. They lost that case.
Yeah, as well as they should. It sounds
I think
awful.
so. Yeah. So this is what's going on now at our FTC and our Department of Justice. Well, not mine exactly, Joe Biden's, and where in that the FTC, the chair of the FTC, Lena Khan, a young woman, basically a lawyer who would be a fifth-year associate at some law firm, is the chair of this thing, and she has come in and run roughshod over the staff and put forward crazy theories like that. But it's all about being a progressive leftist and trying to use antitrust for sort of social change and for in a fight against big business, against bigness in general. And it's really bringing back, actually, I'm not sure, well, it's been described as bringing back the views of former Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis from the 40s and 50s, where he just big is bad. That was his view. And so he would write opinions in cases to protect small, inefficient companies from bigger ones, protecting competitors instead of consumers. And that was the way the world worked. So these new folks from this administration are call themselves neo-Brandeisians. Others call them hipsters. And, they're just putting forward all these ideas, these crazy ideas, throwing spaghetti against the wall and hoping something sticks. And they have a very, not to mix my metaphors, but they have a very low batting average
Yeah,
with all the spaghetti
with all the spaghetti.
That's right. In fact, almost zero. So, but that's, I think, not what they're really, they don't worry about. I think they do a little bit, but they don't, they're winning cases is almost to them less important than, I guess what they call disruption. If we disrupt the system enough, change will happen. Fortunately for the rest of us, the courts in this country, which the Biden administration is trying to change, but has not been able to get enough judges yet to do so, and certainly not on the Supreme Court, still applies the consumer welfare standard. And so it's throwing a lot of this stuff out based on these stupid cases that they're bringing and the theories that they're putting forward. And the DOJ, the antitrust division of the DOJ, has a little more serious and experienced person running it now, a guy named Jonathan Cantor, who still is having trouble bringing cases. He brought a criminal case against some healthcare executives, and the jury acquitted them in a couple of hours yesterday. And he's brought other cases that the juries have or judges have thrown out. He's just not having a real good time doing this, which is a good thing. But again, this disruption is harmful to a system which has been so good and working for so many years that sooner or later they're going to win something. And that's why they're swinging for the fences now, having brought cases against Google, and they're going to bring a case against Amazon that's been reported now for months that it's coming. And we will see. It'll be might be about market share and abuse of their dominant position in certain markets, particularly in advertising, ad tech stuff. And it will likely also be about there are private claims of by vendors or sellers on Amazon that somehow or another they're being mistreated and they're being forced. California's got a case against Amazon for forcing. I love this, forcing companies who sell on Amazon to sell for lower prices. Yeah. Okay. I don't get it either. But so anyway, I started this effort, this antitrust education project a couple of years ago when I saw this coming. When I saw Senator Elizabeth Warren start having meetings and talking to people like Lena Khan and Tim Wu, who's a professor at Columbia University and others, about how we can use the antitrust laws to force all this economic and social change. And first thing I did was to figure out I wondered where my father's book was, and I found out it was out of print. So I got the rights back to it, and I formed a publishing company, and I republished it. The one over my shoulder is the new edition with a forward by introduction by Senator Mike Lee and a forward by me. And then I started this thing because I wanted to get off the bench and into the game, as I said before, and fight back. And really, I'm this is a legacy thing for me. I'm trying to protect my father's work and his legacy in this area, and fight back against some of these crazy left-wing ideas. So I think I answered your question in the most roundabout and long-winded way possible, but there you go.
No, man, there's no such thing. Do antitrust laws ever apply to like defense contractors, or do they just kind of get to run the gamut?
I guess they would. They apply to everybody. They applied to steel, and they in the past steel and oil, and and you know where antitrust comes from. The name antitrust is really should be these days competition law, because it really antitrust laws were written. The first was the Sherman Act, written in 1890, was it? I forget the exact year, but before the end of the 19th century. And it was against all these. Back then, companies used to organize into trusts. And so you had the Standard Oil Trust, and you had these other railroad trusts, and so that's why they were antitrust laws, trying to break those up. Now it's just Amazon is big, and Google is huge, and trillions of dollars in market cap. So, but again, it's not big. Big isn't bad. Bad is abusing your bigness, your size, to the detriment of the consumer, against the welfare of the consumer. So, and that's what I'm doing this for.
What would happen if they all just like joined forces? What would happen if like Apple and Amazon and Google just
Well, they all hate each other.
I know, but I'm just theoretically. What if they all just merged and we're just like, let's just
Did you
run
ever
the
see that
world?
movie Rollerball, the original one,
No,
with James Caan? It
no.
takes place in a world where there are no governments anymore. The world is run by corporations, and
Yeah.
so you have the defense corporations and then the agricultural corporations, and that sort of thing.
What
Fantasy land, but a fun movie.
there
Uh,
was there was a cool paper that came out forever ago. I don't even remember. I think I was in college. I might have been in high school. I think maybe like 2011. And
Sorry.
somebody no, you're good. Somebody like they used some I think it was on Forbes. They mapped like the 1100 wealthy. No, I think it was 1347. I think that was the number. The 1347 wealthiest corporations. Weird number. I don't know why. And it was like they controlled something like 90% of all like commerce and trade in the world. And then they did a deeper dive. And inside that 1347, I think there was something like I want to say it was like 100 corporations controlled 90% of that. And then inside of that, it was like 11 banks controlled 99% of that. So it came to this and they mapped it out, and it comes down to this nucleus of just unimaginable power. And I always think like how do we not know that those are just all linked together? Because that's like an actual graphical analysis of wealth. It's not just like the assumption that there's a bunch of guys in cloaks, running the world doing some Illuminati shit, but like that's an actual visualization. And like how would we know? And especially if it's something like defense contractors where you can just say it's classified, just say screw you, you can't look at this, it's classified. Like I think they tried to break up AT&T in the 70s, and the DoD came in and were like, yeah, you can't do that. And they were like, why
But they
not?
did. But they did.
Oh. Well, at first, I know the DoD came in and they were like, you can't do this. And they were like, why not? And they're like, that's classified. And we later found out it's because AT&T was doing all the lines for the nuclear bunkers. I think they were called long lines. They had these
Well, long lines was long distance telephone back. I remember
it,
back when there were telephones.
no, it,
So
it was something else. It was they had these lines that were specifically routed like hundreds of miles away from any city because that's where the thermonuclear bursts would be. And so they're these long circuitous routes, but they linked nuclear bunkers together.
yeah,
Um, but something like that. Like, how would we not know if there's 10 corporations at that core of the core of the core of that nucleus? How would we theoretically know that they're not just running the world? I mean, is that like a
are you
chicken?
unhappy with, generally speaking, how the world is running?
I mean, no, I mean, listen, the whole place is I
I
don't
mean,
know,
there's
it's a dump, but it's also beautiful. I don't know, yeah, it's art's beautiful. You look at like statues and that's great. And then you see like, and then there's like a genocide and that's not great. And so some days it's,
well, I'm not arguing with you that
yeah,
there,
no, I'm just,
but I think there's a certain level of paranoia, not necessarily you, but
yeah.
in the view that uh, all these companies are out there and they're big, and therefore if they're big and they're a handful of them or more,
And they're evil. Yeah.
then they're evil. I do think though that economies just what the big evil is not the big 10 corporations or the 1347 companies.
Yeah.
Guess what I'm going to say?
It's the government.
There you go.
Well, yeah,
I mean, all the yes, corporations can, in fact, and do bad things,
sure.
but the government is the buck stops there. To
Yeah,
quote
yeah,
Harry Truman, or
yeah,
yeah, and and we have this inflation now, not because of companies, but because of the federal government.
yeah.
We have uh, you uh, defense contractors charging $1,000 a toilet seat or whatever it was back then. That was the famous example back about 20 years ago.
Do you think
Not
that's? Do you think that? Sorry to interrupt. Do you think that's a? I don't think that's. I think that's. I think that's misdirection. I think that's a laser pointer for the cat. I think that
You're probably right.
no one was charging $1,000 for a toilet, or they were, but the reality is that they bought the $2 toilet seat and $998 went to some stealth bomber program. That's what I think it is.
That's a good explanation as any. I don't know,
Well,
but
because
I
it's
think, but the
perfect
thing is, the
outrage
point is,
bait.
the government tells them what they're going to pay.
Of course, no, they're all
And then,
doing
and then
it.
and then of course they don't have to tell anybody because they keep it all secret.
Yeah, it's classified. Screw
Um,
you.
yeah,
Area 51. Yeah, shut up. It's just whatever.
yeah.
But yeah,
So I guess my point is, though, is that I think that we have a largely, not entirely, well working, good working economic system
sure.
that most of the time functions pretty well, but when it doesn't, when it goes off the rails, is because government got in and screwed things up. And
Yeah.
you know that AT&T was a monopoly and it got broken up. Who did AT&T create the monopoly? No, the government created that monopoly. That was a government sanctioned monopoly. And when it
Right.
got broken up into the Ma Bell companies, and then which are of course now the Verizon and others, um, it got broken up. It caused an explosion of innovation. Cell phones grew out of that. It was hard to believe, but all that stuff, all breaking up a government sanctioned monopoly made the economy and the country better and the world better. So, and led to lots of innovation and job creation.
Tinfoil hat time. If I'm the government,
Yeah.
I'm absolutely gonna have sanctioned monopolies. I'm gonna let these things grow. Google, Standard Oil, whatever, Carnegie or whatever, railroads, doesn't matter.
Google's not a sanctioned monopoly.
I know, I'm not, no, everything I'm
Like, I mean, they
saying
didn't
from
create the monopoly.
everything I'm saying from here forward is just horseshit conjecture.
Okay, well, that's how you fill your hour then, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's how you gotta do it, man. It can't be all serious. It can't all be facts and figures and statistics. We got to get into, the aliens but if I'm a government, I'm sanctioning these, letting them turn into monopolies, and then I'm saying to them, well, you know what? This is pretty bad. You're a monopoly. You do what I want, or I'm going to break you up. And next thing you know, you have stuff like the Twitter files, where it's like, how did that happen? How does Twitter have a backdoor coding program like for the FBI and the DHS who can request certain accounts be taken down, especially during political races? Like, how does that happen? And you have to imagine it's some sort of blackmail. It's you got a pretty thing going on here, Tommy. Your podcast's biggest in the world. Why don't you just push this talking point? Why don't you just push, don't question if it's 20 years ago, be like, don't question the Iraq war. And we'll keep you up there. Otherwise, we're gonna have to hit you with these antitrust lawsuits. That's how I would control the world if I'm an evil government.
Well, I think that's what they're trying to do right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said this weaponization of antitrust is the left's big gun. Uh,
Mm.
they're trying to take over the economy, and the way to do it is to tell CEOs, corporations, that we can manage every aspect of your business using antitrust. We'll bring an antitrust suit against you if you don't do this. Not just whether you're against the consumer welfare, but if we don't like your labor policies, your racial equity policies, whatever, those become under this new regime, the kinds of things that can cause an antitrust case.
Yeah. And you give an inch,
And
they take a mile. How come your CEO is a man, but he's not wearing a dress? That's very not progressive of you, sir.
well, I'm aware of an oil company I met the general counsel a little while ago, a few weeks ago, who told me, they have all this, and this is the other thing I'm getting into these days, by the way, is antitrust and ESG. Uh,
Ooh, yeah.
a lot of this ESG stuff, these enforced codes of environment, social governance standards that are put forward by these NGOs like Climate Action 100 Plus and others, and then enforced by the financial asset managers like BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street, and then managed, the proxies are managed by the duopoly of
BlackRock, Vanguard.
no, there are these two companies that manage proxies. So,
Oh,
and so they can vote their proxies and push to get um, uh, shareholder initiatives onto corporate annual meeting ballots and stuff. So, like this company, this guy was telling me that they had a challenge to them for being racially insensitive or something. I forget the exact term, but it was racial inequality at his company. And he wrote back to them, excuse me, we have a diverse board of directors. Most of our employees, more than half, are Hispanic, or minorities, Hispanic. We have a racial equity hiring standard, which we wrote 10 years ago. And you gave us a negative 13 score, or whatever it was,
yeah.
in your thing. So it's all about pushing a left-wing woke social agenda now. It has little to do with years ago, just jumping
No,
back to
man.
this thought. Years ago, Milton Friedman, the economist, put forward this notion. He wrote, I think it was an article or a book. He said that the only responsibility of corporate managers is to make a profit for their shareholders.
Yeah, fiduciary responsibility.
Right. That is it. That's it. Now he only gets quoted on that part, but the second half of his statement was, and to do so ethically.
Ooh,
Okay. Yeah, but they never say that part.
that's like
Yeah,
Mark.
but
Sorry, I was gonna say that's like Mark Twain. The difference between the right word and the wrong word is the difference between lightning and lightning bug.
exactly.
Ethically. Wait, what was that part? Yeah, no, forget that part.
Yeah, right. So that has been attacked and essentially thrown overboard by the left. That notion that no, there are all these other things you have to consider. And as a result of that, you're getting all this stuff shoved down the throats of CEOs. Boards are being attacked. They're forcing, uh, new directors onto boards and pushing out other ones that they don't like, with the idea that ultimately there's going to be this sort of woke groupthink across corporate America, across the world,
Yeah.
and the people who are having champagne with their dinner in Davos are going to be running everything. Now, there's a conspiracy theory I can get behind,
Well, it's not
but
because it's not a theory.
no, right. Um, but it's not a theory, and that's what's going on. That's what's been going on for the last 2 years in this administration. They've been playing their part in this, and by allowing and putting forward people like Lena Khan, Jonathan Cantor, Tim Wu, and others, and the president himself wrote an executive order with 72 orders to make antitrust enforcement a whole of government, competition enforcement a whole of government proposition.
Hmm.
He said this in a speech. He attacked my father, so that pissed me off. And I wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal saying that either he's misinformed or he's lying or both, because all the claims he made about how this antitrust experiment called the Consumer Welfare Standard had been a failure. And I pointed out in my response, no, stock investment has grown by 10% a year for all these last 43 years. No, there's been enormous job creation, enormous small business growth, wealth creation. Innovation is like off the charts. And if you compare us to Europe, that doesn't have this sort of operating system of antitrust, they don't innovate anything. There's no Palm company, Pomme, app. There's no Apple in French over there. They don't.
Yeah.
It's all to them. It's all about scraping profits off of American companies.
Yeah,
Uh,
Europe sucks.
hmm?
I said, yeah, they suck.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I mean,
there you go.
I'm
There you
saying
go.
I'm saying it as a joke with the big
It's an
like
economic concept you're putting
they're
forward.
idiots. No, I'm sure they just have a different lifestyle. No, it's I mean it's apples and oranges. Sorry, keep going.
No, I guess I'm not sure where I was going exactly. I'm just
No, who cares? That's the no. That's the if we stick to talking points, the podcast sucks. I have some. This is episode 1148. I have some.
really.
Yeah, I have
Oh,
some. I have very little wisdom in this life, but if I have any, it's with this podcast. And I found the more you try to stay on, like track, the worse the podcast is. You
well,
gotta let
I'm enjoying myself. So there you
yeah,
go.
you gotta just let it. You gotta just let it ride. You gotta, fireworks show is great, but if you want to, what fireworks videos have the most views of all time? It's when a fireworks factory lights on fire and blows up. That's what people want. People want chaos. We're animals. That's what we really want deep down inside. So like, yeah, I don't know. Impose those antitrust and then you have stuff like ExxonMobil that I'm rereading for a second time, and I can't get the author on. Steve Coll. He wrote a Private Empire about ExxonMobil, and I'm reading again for the second time. It's a great book. I mean, it's
What's he
just
say?
it's
In short,
in. I'm going through it a second time. The first time was in 2020. I still can't tell if he likes or doesn't like ExxonMobil. It seems to be a pretty fair take on like what is bad about it and what is good about it. But like ExxonMobil, just like the wealth they have, and like they can just hire just 1,000 people to do a focus group on like one senator who might run up for election because that guy might be something for shale oil to whatever, and they can just put so much work into every little thing. And they were actually looking at like ethanol subsidies, like corn subsidies, and they decided to at the time, I mean, I don't know when this book was written, I think it was like 20 years ago, but at the time they decided not to do it because they didn't want a handout from the government on the off chance that decades down the road the government could turn around and say you're dominating this system. And it's just, you look at that and look at the foresight of that and how they didn't want to do any of that, and how Putin was meeting with Bush, I think 2002, came out to Texas, and he came to them and he was talking to the head Bush people about a deal to drill oil for Exxon to drill oil in Russia, and basically went into it and he's like, you tell your people to do this, and I think Bush looked at him and he was like, nobody tells Exxon what to do, and
hmm.
Putin was just was a bit like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And he was like, our oligarchs like don't bend the knee like that. Like no one tells Exxon what to do, and yeah, I don't know. Like that's kind of hardcore and it's kind of cool that they just tell the government to screw off, because you're gonna have like a concentration of power regardless. I think it's probably better to have multiple nodes of power competing against one another as opposed to kind of a corporate government hybrid state that just controls everything. I don't really know where I'm going with that, but it just popped in my head. ExxonMobil.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure quite what to say about it, except that I think people, you know, Hollywood loves to make movies showing that some corporation or corporate executive runs everything and is responsible for. Well, I was watching the other day. Was it The Shooter or something like that with Mark Wahlberg, and he plays a
Oh yeah,
sniper,
yeah,
and
yeah,
turns out like some senator runs
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. They
uh,
like us down there, boy. Somebody
that's
doesn't get their arm chopped off because their great great grandmother was somebody's great great grandfather. They like us down there, boy. Sorry,
very
I
good.
just watched. I
Very
watched
good.
it like a month ago.
Congratulations. That
Thank
was
you,
well done.
thank you. They
Uh,
like us down there, boy.
Yeah, that's the great Ned Beatty. Who, if you haven't seen Network, you should watch him in Network. Anyway,
I need to watch
um, write that down.
that.
I
Okay.
keep telling younger people what movies to watch because they've never heard of them before.
I do need to, I've heard of Network a million times. I think I've watched clips from it. I
I think
haven't,
you would actually,
I've
given
got to
the
make a
business
quick,
you're in, and even today, watching Network would be worth your while. But how
just
did we
add it
get
to it.
from this to movie reviews? But
Who cares?
seriously,
Mercenaries, corporations, senators, big bad guy.
yeah, I think it's less one guy, less one company, less, you know, the collusion of alleged 10 companies. I think, most of these companies are trying to do their thing. They're trying to dance, around uh, restrictions put on them by government. But I'll tell you the other thing. It's funny. Have you ever heard of the term rent seeking? You know what rent seeking is?
No,
I don't know either, but no,
me
I don't.
neither.
I don't understand. I don't understand why it's called rent seeking. But rent seeking means that you try to use the government. One definition of it: try to use the government to punish your competitors, to beat as a competitive tool, competitive edge. And so, for example, all these companies, all these assaults on Google are being pushed by Yelp and others like them. They go visit the government and tell the government what to do, or try to get the government to bring cases against Google, or Walmart hates Amazon, so Walmart goes to the government and says, Amazon's a pretty bad thing, and or whatever. So that's called rent seeking. And I had a personal experience with it a few years ago. I was at a restaurant in Washington, D.C., where I used to live, and having lunch with a lawyer, and the head of the antitrust division came in, different guy, not the one who's there now, and sat down at a table with some couple other lawyers who I happen to know. They represented a big television network. And I said, you know what this is about? This is rent seeking right here. I'm looking at rent seeking right here. They're telling him that he really needs to bring this case against AT&T and keep them from buying Time Warner.
Mm.
And shortly thereafter, not that they caused it, but shortly thereafter, the antitrust division sued AT&T to keep it from buying Time Warner. They lost. And ultimately, of course, you may recall, AT&T sold Time Warner to Discovery Networks, or whatever it's called, Discovery, I think, because they had no idea how to operate a content company. The market worked. They were allowed to buy it. Judge ruled in their favor. They were allowed to buy it. They did buy it, and then they realized we don't know what we're doing, and they sold it. So I think the point of all that is that companies try to use the leverage of government against their competitors all the time. So in some ways, it's a very, very competitive, rough and tumble kind of world in business. That it's not just businesses trying to attack, or the images that businesses are trying to attack people, real little people. No, they're trying to muscle their way around the government, use the government. The government's trying to get them to do things. It's there's a lot of back and forth and sort of muscular behavior all the way around. And the only thing that I think protects all of us, at least in terms of competitive activity, is this antitrust consumer welfare standard. Notice how I got back to that. Because it is a small d democratic philosophy or theory. It puts the consumer first, and if the consumer is negatively affected, it's a neutral principle. It doesn't favor Democrats or Republicans with big D's in ours. It doesn't favor AT&T over a smaller company. It doesn't favor a particular economic system. It just says the consumer is at the center of everything in our economic life, And if a company wants to acquire or merge or do something, as long as it doesn't harm the consumer in terms of higher prices, innovation, that kind of thing, then it should be allowed. And if it goes off the tracks, or if they do abuse that power, then you bring your case. But the system is being challenged right now, and I think in a very, very bad way. It would have huge, very negative consequences for us, particularly at this time of high inflation. The economy is struggling. I think the thing you really want to do is to kneecap corporations.
Yeah.
At a time when we need more jobs, and we need more wealth, and we need more innovation, and to be able, Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a direct result of that kind of economy. He made his money at PayPal, I think it was, or something like that.
Zip2 and then PayPal.
Right. And then he took that money and he created more jobs, more innovation, more growth. Not that I think Tesla is the greatest thing in the world, but hey, he got an electric car to work.
Yeah.
Oh,
they're fun.
I've ridden in them. I've never driven one.
I've never driven. I've ridden in them too. They actually make me feel nauseous. They accelerate so fast.
Like, really? Well, you should.
Yeah, uncomfortable. My brother would always do it. He'd show it off and I'd be like, "Stop! Please stop doing this." Puke all over your car.
Well, I would have fixed them, but anyway. So that's my view of.
Yeah, I don't.
The world order.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a group of people in a room. I think it's what Terrence McKenna said. He was like, the real scary thing is that, it's not the CIA or the Vatican or the aliens. He goes, the real scary thing is no one's in charge. No one's at the wheel. You get up to the cockpit in the plane and there's no one there. That's the real scary.
I thought you liked that idea.
No, this is Terrence. I'm quoting Terrence McKenna.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, that's the scary. No one's driving the ship. This thing's just hurling. But then
that's what we call laissez-faire economics, right?
Yeah. Well, and then if you examine that ideal long enough, it's not scary at all. It's peaceful, because you then realize it's always been that way. You've lived your whole life this way. It can't be that bad.
Well, it hasn't always been that way, and it's not always that way now. Russia, China, Brazil,
Oh yeah, they are getting together.
Well, they're getting together, but even in their own countries, there's definitely a heavy hand. It's not the free market there.
Do you think we're pushing for war with China? Do you think that's coming?
Well, I am a military expert, so no, I'm not. But
well, I'm a force.
I'm not very happy about where things are going. It doesn't, I don't feel
good.
I don't think this current regime in Washington is up to the challenge of defending this country. I'm not sure Donald Trump would be much, differently better. But and I'm not I'm not here to say I'm a Ron DeSantis guy, but at least he has some serious military experience.
He's a little more polished than Trump, or a little more restrained, I think.
Yeah, but I do think that the handful of things the government really has a responsibility for, I'm talking about the federal government, is for our defense, our safety, and otherwise they should keep the hands the hell off things, because they, generally speaking, bet wrong.
Yeah.
And when they try to understand a technology, by the time they pass some law about the technology, that one's out of date and on to the next one.
Yeah.
So,
they have done something that is intelligent, and that they have just built
I'm sitting down. Tell me what it is.
Okay. They have just built up the biggest, and I don't mean like intelligent that I'm for or against it, just observing. They've just built up the biggest military in the history of the planet, and it doesn't matter if your ideas work, or it doesn't matter if people don't like your dollar. It's just, what are you going to do? We'll
Are you
just
talking
bomb.
about who's built up the biggest military on the planet?
Traditionally, the U.S.
Yes, and now what are we doing with that military?
Oh, we're
It's
doing horrible shit, but I'm just
being
saying.
it's being hollowed out,
Yeah,
and it's being made woke.
yeah. By design, I think it's a controlled collapse of the West so that China can rise, and they would much prefer China's system of complete lockdown on the world at all times. Um, but traditionally, that has been the best bet is just to like like I love playing video games, and I love not doing the tutorials, not listening to any of the cutscenes. I don't want to know what the plot is. I love open world video games because the first thing I will do is I'll find out how to get weapons, how to buy them, how to upgrade them, and then I'll just do that. I don't even know what the plot is. I'll just upgrade every weapon so everything's armor piercing or incendiary or whatever. And then I'll just go bulldoze through the campaign. This mission requires stealth. No, it doesn't. I have a minigun. Like whatever. I'll do whatever I want. And I think that's kind of the tactic for the world is just forget every ideology or economic theory. I think you just build the most weapons and then you can kind of just do it and it's not good. It's clearly it's clearly like a glass ceiling of Homo sapiens that that's how we think, resource scarcity, but that's kind of the way to go, I think. And I'm not for it. It's bad. It results in just millions of, needless deaths, but it seems to be the way to go is just build up a military bigger than anything and bulldoze the world. It's it's shitty, but I mean,
Well, you're talking about video game, or are you talking about in real life? That should be
well,
our
what I
strategy.
do in video games, it seems like that's just kind of the way to go in the world is that you just build up the biggest military. It's kind of sad, but yeah.
Well, talk softly, carry a big stick. Somebody said.
Yeah, yeah. It's also like you don't need to back the dollar by gold. Just back it with an Abrams tank. Which one's more compelling?
I kind of like gold, but yeah, I'll
I
take
like
the.
gold too. Gold's shiny, it's sexy, but I mean, which one's going to fire a uranium tipped round through my apartment? Tell you.
Okay. Well,
I'm just thinking aloud. Um, yeah, I don't know. It might be that we are just. It's not that it's the collapse of America, because traditionally it just goes from power moves from country to country over centuries and millennia. We might be entering a new era where it's like the collapse of the nation state. It might really just be like corporate factions. Like we might be entering a new phase of human history.
well, I'll let you deal with that. I'm not sure. I'll. I think I'll probably be able to finish my life with the sort of current organization of things,
Yeah, it's
but
not looking.
you get on that because
No, I'm not doing anything about it. They're not gonna. They canceled me from YouTube. I can't do it. I can't fight it. They'll
you want to get
eventually.
back on YouTube.
Absolutely not.
Oh, I mean,
Well, I've tried. I've tried. They banned me, and then I appealed, and I said that I thought it was very bigoted of them because I am I identify as a what did I say? A wheelchair bound black woman, and they said that wasn't funny. So
you said that to them.
yeah. Well, I appealed it. And I said this
Uh-huh.
is what I identify as, and I think you guys are bigoted and racist. They said it
They don't
wasn't
have a
funny.
good. They don't have a sense of humor.
You do not. But whatever. I don't know. And it might this might all just be nullified by the rise of strong AI. Like we might yearn for the days of evil corporations. It might something might just take over and just run
I've
this
been
thing.
I've been trying to learn about AI, and for some reason, my Google feed seems to be feeding me all of these. I never realized how many AI programs were out there for various things, everything from writing your term paper
Yeah.
to doing your resume. I mean, to running the stuff in your house.
Yeah.
Uh, it's just. And I played with GPT the other day.
Yeah.
Of course, I was a little upset because it's like 2 years behind on its database. So
Yeah.
so it didn't have all the good stuff about Lena Khan that I've been putting out there. But yeah, no, I think Skynet is not as far away as you might think.
It
So
might already be here, man.
yeah,
It might already we have this idea that we are gonna outsmart AI. But I mean, if the AI is smarter than us, then it can predict everything that we're gonna do. and it's going to outsmart us. And then just if it was truly intelligent, it wouldn't show itself. It
Well,
would
that would
just
be frightening if Lena Khan at the FTC started using AI to decide which cases to bring, because then she could point to the AI saying that Meta should not be allowed to buy something, you know.
I'm sure that there are already AI wars going on right now, but we won't know about it for like 20 years. I'm sure
Yeah.
we're already, I mean, maybe for this podcast, I've done 1,150 episodes, right? Maybe if I just fed all of that into an AI, and then it has, thousands of hours of, my
You
face.
might not have to do another show. Just do your show
This is
for
what
you.
I'm thinking. I mean, it
Go to
has
the golf, go to play
it
golf or something,
has every possible angle of my face and every possible lighting, from energetic to hungover to tired to whatever. It has every possible thing. I've talked to guests from every facet of life. It might be able to just start synthesizing episodes for me. Like, and then I just don't have to do anything. How would anyone know? Like, how would you actually know? I guess it'd be, yeah, something would, it'd probably glitch up. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
I don't know. I'm just thinking a lot. Yeah.
so are you hungover now?
What? Wish. I wish I, no, actually, why would I wish to be hungover? That'd be terrible. Doing podcast hungover is the worst.
I can't imagine. But
I think I've done it twice and it is awful.
well, if they're in the afternoon, it'd be really hard to do. But
They are awful to do.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably going to be AI is going to take over. It's going to come on some form that we never predicted, and it might already be running. I mean, how would you know if military tech is 20, 30 years ahead?
Maybe this whole show is
Maybe you're not real.
I've thought about that.
Maybe I'm not real. Maybe solipsism. Maybe you're the only conscious entity in all of existence.
Sounds like an old Twilight Zone episode.
The idea of solipsism is that you are the only awareness in all of everything. It's just you, which is also kind of Buddhist, but I don't know.
It's also kind of narcissistic, but
It is. Yeah, it's just me, baby. It's just me. I have the flaw in that idea is if one consciousness can arise from seemingly nothing, then why can't it happen again? So I don't really buy into that idea. I think there has to be more than one. I don't know. Um, yeah, I don't know. We've kind of completely deviated from I don't know what the hell we were talking about, but hey, man, we've run for about an hour, so
yeah.
I say we wrap this one up as I drift further out into the ether of just making shit up. Um, where do you think that $2.3 trillion that Rumsfeld announced went missing on September 10th, 2001? Where do you think that went?
I mean the money that was sent to Iraq or something like that? What are you talking about?
On
I,
September
I,
10th, 2001, Secretary
oh,
of
oh,
Defense
oh, oh.
Donald Rumsfeld came out and said that we can't account for $2.3 trillion from the Pentagon. And then the
Oh,
next day was 9/11. Where do you think that money went?
well, if I knew, I wouldn't tell you. No, if I knew, I would tell you. I have no idea. I actually
Yeah.
had forgotten all about that.
Yeah. Well, no, very convenient. Something big happened the next day. One of the planes that, the part of the Pentagon that was hit was also the part of the Pentagon doing the accounting on that very issue. Whatever. Probably a coincidence, but
Okay.
yeah. But I always think where'd that money go? Is it just
Is the
it
tinfoil right off camera there? You have the tinfoil hat right.
surrounding me at all times? I mean, this is all fact.
Are you in a Faraday cage there?
No, I wouldn't be able to get the signal out otherwise. If you think anything. I always think where that goes. Does that go to black budgets or does that just go to like slush funds to bribe leaders? I don't know. That'll probably get me killed if I keep looking into that, so I won't.
Might get you back on YouTube though.
It might get me back on YouTube. Maybe I should just start doing that. Maybe I should just take the black pill and just start.
I spent do a couple of weeks of left wing conspiracy theories and then get back on, and then go back to your old shtick. So
I think if I just started doing Trump's going to jail material every day, I'd be right back on there. They would welcome me back with open arms. Maybe I should just start touting state propaganda. Just completely sell my soul. Get the show going more.
there you go.
No. Um, but yeah, man, this was fun. I appreciate your patience with with my interview style. It goes all over the place. It's not for everybody, but it's why I think it's
I was
fun.
watching you slide down your chair. I figured I had to say something interesting.
No, 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 no. No. That's actually a compliment from if to give to a guest. That's a compliment because that just means I'm listening more and more and more. If
Ah,
I'm, yeah, it's probably not great if I'm up and in your face. It means that I'm running the conversation. It's the best compliment I can give is if I'm slouching down and listening. That's
very
a
good.
yeah. Um, but in the description is your Twitter. Guys, go follow Mr. Bork. And anything else you want to plug? Did I put all the correct plugs in the notes? Let me check
The
this.
antitrusteducationproject.org. And
That's in there. Your Facebook's on there. Yeah, your book's on there. Um,
okay,
yeah, Facebook, Twitter, website, book. Yeah, it's all on there. I did my job. I did my chores. Um,
thank you.
but yeah, man, thanks for coming on. Thanks for shooting the shit with me. I mean, ultimately, yeah, I don't really think anyone's in charge, and I think that probably is. I don't know. It probably is good. I don't know.
For another time.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you so much for doing this. Guys, go follow him. Go check out his book. Go visit his website, and yeah, I'd love to do it again sometime.
All right.
All right, brother. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for watching.